The time is now 7 p.m. and I'll call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Beloit City Council. Tonight is Monday, August 4th, 2014, and we're at 100 State Street in the City Hall Forum. Can I get a roll call?
Roll call shows all councilors present.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is special orders of the day and announcements. 3A.
A proclamation declaring August 5th, 2014 as National Night Out.
Vice President Haynes.
Thank you. City of Beloit, Wisconsin official proclamation. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch is sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on August 5th, 2014 entitled National Night Out. And whereas the 31st Annual National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the City of Beloit to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts, and whereas the Beloit Police Department, Beloit Area Crime Stoppers, and the Beloit Fire Department play a vital role in assisting our community through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in Beloit, Wisconsin, and are supporting National Night Out locally. And whereas it is essential that all the citizens of Beloit be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and the impact that their participation can have in reducing crime, drugs, and violence in Beloit. And whereas the police community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are important in themes of the National Night Out program. Now, therefore, the City Council President of the City of Beloit does hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 5th, 2014 as National Night Out in Beloit and encourages residents to acknowledge the event with their neighbors by hosting block parties, cookouts, youth programs, and other such activities that strengthen and promote the neighborhood spirit and police community partnerships. Presented this 14th day of August 2014, Mark Spreitzer, President, Beloit City Council.
On behalf of the police department and everyone in the community who supports National Night Out, I'd like to thank the council members in particular. I would like to thank the block captains who really generate the enthusiasm for National Night Out, and all the other participating members of this great event, the fire department included, and Crime Stoppers. It's wonderful to be a participant in this for such a long time. We can be proud to support National Night Out and the people who live right in our neighborhoods that help support crime prevention in our community. Now, the kickoff tomorrow is at 250 Garden Lane at 5:30, and everyone is welcome to attend that event. And then afterwards, we will fan out into the community and try to hit as many block watches as possible to support their activities. So thank you again for your support.
Thank you. Item 4 is public hearings. We have none. Item 5 is citizens' participation. We have reached the point in the meeting for members of the public to speak to the council about issues that are coming before us or may come before us in the future. The council will not act on any requests this evening unless the item you are speaking about is already on our agenda, but we may act on requests at a future meeting, or we may refer a speaker to staff for assistance. We ask that you hold your comments to 3 minutes or less and avoid making any personal attacks. I have a number of sheets of people wishing to speak, and after we get through those, there will be an opportunity for anybody who didn't turn in a sheet to approach the podium and speak if they're interested. Our first speaker is Brian Fitzgerald. Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Brian Fitzgerald. My address is 3906 Capella Drive in Janesville. I'm a Janesville City Councilman, but I'm also running for the 15th Senate District, and I wanted to come down tonight and say hello and meet everyone. I want to represent the entire district, not just part of it. Some people aren't aware of the new district lines for District 15. It includes only about half of Beloit. I'd like to see the type of prosperity and opportunity that I grew up with in Janesville return to this area, and that means jobs. And that's my primary focus in this campaign. I'll also be, I'm going to stay here for the entire meeting, so I'll be available after the meeting if anybody wants to chat, has questions. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Dowd. Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Jason Dowd, 523 Moore Street here in Beloit. Well, last time I was here, I was introducing myself as a new county board member, and I'm here again to maybe ask for your help because I'm experiencing some resistance with some of my fellow county board members. I have introduced a resolution that places a referendum on the November 4th ballot, which would basically give the people of Rock County the choice to weigh in on the decision on whether to accept federal Medicaid funds that Governor Walker and the state legislature refuses to accept. This is federal money that is earmarked for the state of Wisconsin, for Rock County, and this would definitely help the county's situation with funding some programs we have. Right now, a brief history. The county board went on record on, I'm sorry, it's been a long day, I'm sorry. Went on record on supporting this measure to encourage the governor to accept this money. I think only one county board member voted against it. This was back in December. Since that time, other counties have been placing a referendum on the ballot. I think there's 9 so far, and there's up to 14, 15 more that may do it before the deadline to get it on the ballot. For Rock County specifically, and we don't know the numbers, the new numbers for the people that this would affect. I did submit a letter to Secretary Kitty Rhodes on behalf of 19 other county supervisors from 19 different counties to request this information. We have not heard anything yet. But in Rock County alone, it'd cover, for the state of Wisconsin alone, it'd cover 84,000 people. 3,030 of them would be Rock County citizens. That number may go up or go down once we get the breakdown from the county. But I think funding 3,000 residents, so they have fallen through the cracks that are not eligible for the Affordable Care Act, then they can't sign up for it. They just don't have any insurance. They can't afford to get it privately or on the marketplace. And to me, that's just, it's not a Democrat-Republican issue. It's a human issue. And the money's there. We just need our state government to actually care a little bit more and take this money so we can serve these people that need our help. So I'm here tonight. My resolution was tabled by the County Board Staff Committee and tabled by the Human Services Board. I got the support of other supervisors to push it to the County Board on August 14th. So if anyone would like to help out the new county board, Beloit County Board member on the block, I'd welcome you just to come and talk in support of placing this on the referendum. Whether you're in favor of it, whether you're opposed to it, I think this is a big enough issue and it covers enough people where I think the citizens should weigh in on it, and that is what I'm here for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Richard Harris.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you for service for the city manager and city council members and other civil service and attendants and community members. Richard Harris, 141 North Oak Street, Whitewater. I am currently a student at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater, and thankfully, thank to God, I graduate in about 2 weeks with a social work degree with emphasis in criminal justice, and I have been accepted into the University of Southern California master's program. And I say that because I am one of the used to be problems in the city of Chicago, Kenosha, Racine, and other cities where I used to engage in criminal activity and the violence that we see here in Beloit. And I speak on that because we are experiencing violence in this city, and it needs to stop. We're losing young lives. We lost a 16-year-old yesterday, and it's heartbreaking to know that a 16-year-old young man will never go to high school and graduate, never have a college experience, never raise a family, never do all those wonderful things that we bring children into the world to do. And I just wanted to speak about the leadership that we need from this city. We need your leadership. We need to do some things, take some concrete steps to reduce that violence. We have to. It's heartbreaking again to live in America where we have a opportunity to live our dreams, to do wonderful things, yet live in a city where we're not seeing that happen with the young people. I had to do an internship here in Rock County to work with a youth program through the Southwest Wisconsin Workforce Development Board. And all of the young people that I work with come from the Beloit and Janesville area. And it's really difficult for me to work with them when they have a sense of not having hope. I experienced that in the streets of Chicago, and we all know what Chicago is like. We don't even have to close our eyes and imagine it. We know what Chicago is like. So it's very difficult for me to hear young people that I work with who are from the Beloit and Janesville area have that outlook. And so I wanted to come tonight to say we need your leadership. And I have faith that the leadership in Beloit is more than willing to deliver. So, please, help us out. We want to do the right thing for our young people and make them the next city council members, the next chief of police, and next whatever else we have sitting here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Daniel Boralski.
Thank you so much. My name is Daniel Boralski. I live on 1301 Chapin Street. As a father to a little boy with another baby on the way, the husband of a 7th grade language arts teacher in the Beloit School District, a professor at Beloit College, and the president of Little Turtles Playhouse, I'm concerned about and invested in the well-being of our public schools and their students. I recognize that school attendance is critically connected to our school's success, and thus I applaud the school board and city council for having worked together in the past to create the ordinances intended to increase attendance, graduation rates, and to decrease habitual truancy. However, based on workshops I've recently attended, case studies that I've witnessed, and recent research into the effects of the laws currently in place, I fear that the existing ordinances have not only largely failed to accomplish their larger goals, but have ended up holding back the very people the laws are seeking to help. I have already shared with you in the past, at the workshop last month, and also via email, the situation that affected my employee who was arrested for truancy fines she earned while a freshman and sophomore in high school. This is a person who's trying to succeed after having graduated from high school, starting classes at Black Hawk Tech, and has found a job, and is now being penalized for things she did while still a juvenile. This case in particular demonstrates what for me seems to be the greatest injustice behind the ordinance, namely the ways in which we are handing out adult punishments to children. I recognize that the fines are originally given to parents and that the students only become responsible for them after they turn 18, but I urge you to see through the heart of the matter. These are young people paying adult fines for juvenile offenses and are suffering as a result. Surely, everybody here wants to strike the right balance, holding young people accountable for their actions without unfairly burdening them for mistakes they made as juveniles. I believe that as we want to help the members of our community develop into productive citizens as adults, we need to restore the distinction between adult and juvenile that past laws have set up. Now, I do know and I realize that the scope of City Council's power is limited, and I appreciate that there have been conversations about reducing the fines. However, I'd ask that we don't let this important change be a mere Band-Aid slapped on what is a much more serious wound. Indeed, I believe that the complete revocation of current truancy laws is really the first, and I emphasize the first, necessary step towards moving forward. I hope the City Council can, as suggested at the workshop last month, move ahead and meet with the school board and members of the community to come up with an imaginative and successful alternative to punishing those who are already suffering and to encourage, support, and excite our children to going to school. Thank you for hearing.
Thank you. Steve Howland.
Hello, I'm Steve Howland, 1617 Emerson Street, Beloit. I would like to address the council regarding changes to the ordinances, both numbered 15.262, habitual truancy and truancy, and recommend to the council that they reduce all fines for truancy, both single acts and habitual, to $25. With court costs, I calculate that would still come to a total of $92.50 for a violation, a significant amount for most of the persons charged, where 77% of the students as of last June were on the free or reduced lunch program. If the youth and/or parents aren't showing up for court even after 4 or 5 citations have been sent, raising the amount is not likely to change their behavior. Many areas around the country are re-examining the usefulness of fining truancy and are lowering or eliminating fines to address truancy. For example, the state of Massachusetts caps fines for truancy at $20. This trend is based on evidence that fines are not an effective deterrent, especially given the ages and socioeconomic status of those involved. It also has a built-in unfairness in that it impacts more severely those who simply don't have the resources, in this case the money, to pay the fines plus court costs, versus those who do. Another problem is we end up without a reasonable end game or exit strategy. When a student fails to respond to efforts to make them return him or her to school, and when served with citations fails to appear in court, the court is left with few options when the individual turns 18 other than to issue a warrant for their arrest, with the result being that they pay off the fine in county jail. It's an option I think we would all like to avoid, especially because it hurts us, the community, and the taxpayers as much or more than the truant. It's a little like when I would tell my children their punishment was to be grounded for life. At some point, I always had to come to terms with the short-sightedness of such a punishment. It doesn't work. I've talked to several people involved with the truancy issue over the last several days: the superintendent of the school district, the deputy police chief, and one of the school resource officers, the municipal judge, a member of the school board, a principal of one of our elementary schools, and the deputy city attorney here. It has been an education. I am sure I could spend months continuing my investigations and still have only scratched the surface of the dimensions of the problem. But at this point, I've been able to see some of the gaps in our present system, such as the time between the first truancy and meaningful consequences is often much too long. Our school resources officers don't deal with children under 12, but frequently problematic behavior develops well before that age. Support structures for families, students, teachers, police, our courts need to be greater. Personal contact with families and/or guardians in the home is needed, but limited school personnel, time, and money all make the problem worse. This is a community issue and problem, not just a school's problem, or a police problem, or a city council problem. We need a community effort to address it, working with and supporting one another. A second recommendation I have is to strongly urge the City Council to take the leadership in forming a committee to explore the issues and recommend possible remedies to the gaps in our truancy procedures and policies. I would suggest that the makeup of the committee include 2 City Council members, appropriate city staff, school district of Beloit personnel, the board, and key faculty and staff. Citizens who have worked on the issue, the municipal judge, the assistant city attorney, Fred Atlas, who makes those visits to the homes currently, one of the school resource officers, at least 2 high school students, and I would encourage at least 25% of the committee be made of students or parents of students who have received citations for truancy. It's always good to get the input of the people most directly involved in a situation. I would recommend once again, at least 2 persons from the City Council and 2 from the school board, not only for their needed input, but also to assure reporting back has backups and the impact needed to bring about possible changes. I believe there are several citizens present this evening who would like to see the fines reduced and or eliminated possibly. If that should ultimately prove a wise decision, and attention given to the truancy issue. In closing, I would like to ask those persons to stand and show their support. If they're here present and would be willing to stand, I encourage you to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mike Fallon?
Good evening, Mike Fallon, resident of Beloit, live at 1232 Elm Street. Steve pretty much said everything I was going to say, so I would just like to urge that we have community involvement in this problem. I don't see from the limited data we've been able to obtain that this problem has diminished or reduced at all, and we've been at it for 7 years. The school district came to the city council, as the city manager said, to provide the hammer. Well, the hammer's not doing it. We're not getting the results we need, so we need to do something different. So I would hope that we have a group study about this, get some community members involved. I like Steve's suggestion that we get the people that are directly infected to try to show up and help us out and see what works for them. I think we need to do something different. We can't function as a society when we don't have educated children, and we need to fix this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other sheets of people wishing to speak, but if anyone else wishes to speak tonight to address the council during citizens' participation, please approach the podium at this time.
I'm Heather McCoy. I have nothing written up, but I'm part of this community. I was born here, raised here, and sadly I've seen this town come crashing down on everyone. I have directly been involved with Stop the Violence movements, 2 different ones, and we continue to just keep seeing violence over and over. Tonight we're going to a vigil of a 16-year-old, and I'm available to do anything in the community, and I've reached out. I really want to somehow bridge the gap between officials and community people that are willing to do some work. I've been trying to reach out to different people and how we could do that. Not exactly sure how, but I'm getting a lot of help from different people. And I'm just really sad to see all these kids going through this. I would like to start my own nonprofit to work with some kids, because I feel like I've lived through some of the things these kids have lived through. I myself have been through a lot of domestic and different kind of abuse, and I think it's not just gun violence, it's domestic violence, it's bullying, it's all kinds of different things, and I think we need to figure out some way to bridge the gap between everything: school, probation, police, community. And I think everybody's willing to do it, but everybody's scared to speak. There has to be a way for people to come forward to the police without feeling like there's going to be retaliation. I think a lot more honesty has to happen between all the people involved. And that's basically what I'm here for, is to try to just reach out myself and say that as community people, we're crying out that we're scared, and it's very hard to function, raise your kids, have them go to school, and feel safe doing that. And I don't know where else to turn, but I'm here, and I'm trying to say that we got to do something.
Thank you. Chief Jacobs, if there's any way that any of this would be helpful in your efforts, or that you can provide any ideas, can you please be sure to be in touch with Heather and make sure that those lines of communication are open? Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the council at this time? If so, please approach the podium. Second call for anyone else wishing to speak to the council. Third and final.
Hello, Lakedrick McCoy, 935 Gerald Avenue here in Beloit. This is my beautiful wife here. Basically, I just want to say the same things that she's saying. It's a problem, and it needs to be addressed. I myself grew up on these streets. Yes, I've been in these streets, so I know a little bit of what these kids are going through, what some of these adults are going through, so I can kind of relate to that. a lot of this stems from parents not doing what they're supposed to do, uncles and aunties not doing what they're supposed to do. Everybody needs to step up to the plate. That includes all the officials around here, all the police, and the community. It's an outrage to watch this city go to waste, and I'm tired. I can't do it anymore, so I'm here to help too.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the council this evening? One final call. If there anyone else wishing to speak to the council, please approach the podium at this time. If not, citizens' participation is closed. The next item on our agenda is item 6, the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda. I would like to remove item 6C. Are there any other councilors wishing to remove an item? Councilor DeForest.
I was requesting 6C as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Are there any other councilors wishing to remove an item? If not, the consent agenda consists of items 6A and B. Is there a motion to approve? Motion approved. Moved by Lubke, second by Hendricks. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? 6A and B are approved 7-0. Item 6C.
A resolution rejecting all bids for Public Works Contract C14-10, 3rd Street Pier.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
The project before you that we're recommending, the rejection of all bids, was to construct a 40-foot-long pier on the west side of the Rock River across from the Rotary River Center. 2 bids were received, the low one being $140,000 and some change, was from Gilbank Construction. They are a responsible bidder, but it is, well, way over engineer's estimate, to say the least. And therefore, we're recommending rejection of all bids.
Thank you. Are there any questions on item 6C? Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I wanted to check with you to see, just for the public's information, if you could share what is your plan at this point in terms of moving forward with this project?
Upon your rejection of the bids, I will meet with the 2 contractors that bid to find out how we were so far apart and determine whether or not to value engineer and come to something that we can bring back, or determine the value of the project as it sits.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions, or is there a motion to approve the resolution rejecting all bids?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Haynes, second by Kelly. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That's approved 7-0. Item 7 is ordinances. 7A.
A proposed ordinance to amend sections 25.04 sub 1 sub D, 31.30 sub 1, and 15.30, and to create section 31.30 sub 1M of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit pertaining to forfeitures for juvenile matters in municipal court. This is the second reading.
Ms. Krieger.
This matter was laid over from the last council meeting. At the city manager's direction, I provided just a snapshot of what they consider status offenses on the staff report, and also just a reminder that the fines were reduced to the general penalty scheme of $100, $200, $300 for first, second, and third and subsequent offenses, leaving some of the more serious offenses to have a enhanced schedule, in addition to some that are kept. The weapons violations, namely, are kept the same as for adult violations. So this is back before you for further discussion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, or is there a motion to approve this item? Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I guess first I'll start with my question, and then I have a amendment motion that I'd like to make. I wanted to ask Mr. President, what is the status of setting up the meeting with the school officials as this body had requested, and we had expressed that we would like to see that communication begin so we could set up a committee with ourselves and the schools and the community?
I've had a conversation with the president of the school board, John Winkleman, and he was going to be speaking with Steve McNeil about that. I do need to follow up and see where the status of that conversation is, but we discussed making sure that we get that appointed, and he was very much on board with the idea of convening that committee, so that is moving forward. And then we were also in a discussion with the city manager about scheduling a joint meeting of our entire body with the school board, probably for the end of September, and perhaps the city manager can give an update on that.
Well, I talked to the school.
Now you are.
Yeah, I spoke to the school superintendent, and we're trying to select a date. It looks like it will be more near the middle part of September after school gets started. Of course, everybody's on vacation through the balance of August. And I think that's where you probably should start, is the two boards should get together and talk about truancy and try to get a flavor for what the school district's goals and objectives are, and whether you want to collaborate in additional programs to try and address this problem. Because again, we've tried the carrot approach, that doesn't work. We've tried the stick approach. People are telling us that doesn't work. There are not a lot of other options out there. If it's going to be left to people's own volition as to whether they want to go or not, that certainly would be up to them as individuals. But I think that's where you should start, and then see whether there's need to create a bigger committee, which would be an ongoing group that would discuss the problem and see if they can come up with some creative solutions. But at least start with a board-to-board discussion.
And I don't see any reason we can't get that committee rolling in the meantime if there's interest on the part of the school board, and it seems like there is. And I think there are some creative solutions out there, so
Sure.
we'll keep working on both of those at the same time. Great. For sure.
Yeah.
I guess if I could add, I think there are more approaches than just carrot and sticks, and I would hope that we would make an effort to include the community and those most affected in that committee work, that work group that we design. And I'd like to request that. My motion that I'd like to make to make an amendment here, that we reduce the amount of the fine for habitual truancy from $100 to $50. When we look at the total of what that will actually cost the young person with court costs, we're looking at, close to $200. And I think that is quite a large amount of money for a first offense. And so I think that we should, I would ask and implore my colleagues to reduce the habitual truancy fine amount from $100 to $50. And that is the motion I'd like to make at this time.
Madam Clerk, do we need to have a motion to approve the underlying item, or can we amend it as we currently stand?
Should introduce it first.
Yeah, have a motion to
introduce it.
To introduce it, yes.
Would you be willing to make a motion to introduce this first and then offer your amendment?
Certainly. I will make a motion to introduce this ordinance.
Is there a second to that motion? Second by Kincaid. Councilor DeForest, if you want to make the motion.
Yes, I would like to make the amendment that we reduce the fine for habitual truancy from $100 to $50.
Is there a second to that motion? I will second that. I do see a fair amount of discussion here. Councilor Lubke.
I may be in favor of that, but I think we need to meet first, and I'd like Professor Borowski and Mr. Holland and maybe Mr. Fallon and others interested on that committee. I had heard some very good ideas earlier. I'm just surprised and chagrined that more school people aren't here. I see Fred here, but I wish we had more people from the schools speaking on this, because there are two sides to every issue, and we need some type of sanction. But I agree, maybe it should only be $25 or $50. But let me just speak on my 37 years in working with these students every year. First as a psychologist with the schools, then as director of student services, and then the last 20 years as a principal. Not a day went by that I didn't work with these students who were truant. And my last job as principal of the alternative schools, I worked very closely with Fred, matter of fact, daily. And we spent maybe an hour, 2 hours a day going over truancy. We're not talking about first and second graders. We're talking about high school students. And we're talking about tickets as a very last resort. We try everything. We have our social workers going to the homes, our psychologists, our nurses, our counselors, and principals. And Fred, we need 10 Freds. Fred does a fantastic job, by the way, himself, but it's not like the days of Mr. Benty in the 1950s where he was the truant officer and we had one parent at home, one parent working. And that's maybe one of the reasons we've seen these massive changes in Beloit. You talk about violence and things like that, but I'll stick to truancy. If we have a committee, we need these people on who have done the research, who have a vested interest. Their hearts are in the right place, but I think they have to realize we're not picking up kids who are truant one time. 10 things maybe have been tried with a lot of these kids. And I agree with the professor, it's tough when you get your act together at 19 and you're trying to get in college or whatever, and that looms over you. But let's get the committee together, let's get school people in there, let's get principals in there who work with it daily, and others with the community, and make some decisions then. And then I think we're more apt to make changes as far as the penalties. Maybe we say no money fines or whatever, but I think we have to have sanctions. Otherwise, we'll continue with kids getting dropped off by their parents at the high school, going in the front door, going out the back door, going to a home to watch videos or smoke or do whatever. And again, I've dealt with this day in, day out, so I have the experience with it. And Fred can give you some experiences too, but I would like to see this committee going with community involvement. Thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
I was just going to say that before we start changing the amounts, we need to meet and we need to find out more than just, we might come up with different amounts altogether or even less than that.
Councillor DeForest.
Thank you. I'm excited about the opportunity to form this work group and really look at systemically the changes that we can make to this entire ordinance and to the program in terms of our collaboration with each other. In the meantime, this ordinance sits on our books right now, and we have kids coming to court this week and next week and the week after, and I suspect that that work group is going to take quite a bit of time to sort out how it wants to proceed. I want to try to prevent, at least, from this moment on, from continuing to crippling kids with a amount of fine that there's no way they can dig out from under. And I think at the very least we can do this. It's sitting in front of us right now. It's been drafted. It's here. Let's reduce the fine now, at least so we can put a temporary stopgap on some of this hemorrhaging. And certainly we can come back and redress it. I hope we will redress the entire ordinance and think about how we handle truancy. But to say that, well, we don't want to reduce this fine, which we have, I think most of us agree, is extremely burdensome for many families, and say, well, we're just going to put it on hold until we figure out what the perfect solution is. It's going to take us a long time to figure that out. And in the meantime, a lot of kids will be struggling with an incredible fine. So I would implore my colleagues to let's at least, put this stopgap and reduce the fine amount at least to this amount. Thank you.
I agree, both on the fact that I think we should vote on the overall change that reduces the fines as soon as we are able to, and also in support of this amendment, which would reduce the habitual truancy fine from $100 to $50. I think that's certainly clearly still a sanction. Nobody's talking about repealing the ordinance, and my understanding is the feedback we've gotten from the school district is that they don't appear to have an objection to adjusting the fine amounts as long as we're keeping the ordinance in place and keeping sanctions in place. So I see this as a first step that we can do now to then make some major progress on this issue while we convene the committee, recognizing that the committee really is going to need to look at a range of issues that go far beyond fine amounts. But I think that we really, when we're setting the fine amounts, we need to recognize that for the kids that are getting these fines, whether it's the forfeiture itself or the court costs, doesn't matter. It's the total cost that matters. That's the number they see, that's the number they have to pay, and that's the number that accumulates if they run up multiple tickets. And even if we drop this down from 100 to 50 for habitual truancy, we're talking about well more than that when we add in court costs. So that seems like a reasonable place to start, and then I would support approving this. I believe we probably then couldn't do it tonight because we'd have to run that change by the judge, but we'd be able to approve it at our next meeting and get that done while the committee continues to move forward and look at the broader issues. So to me, that seems like a logical two-step approach that shows that we're serious and acting in good faith on this issue while continuing to look. And if the committee says, no, we really need to change this some more, there's nothing that can't get it back on our agenda. But as long as it's here, I think we ought to do the best we can with it with the information we have. Councillor Kelly.
So Sheila, so kids are coming to court now school's been out for a month and a half.
Correct. The kids, thank you. We will be starting school again in a couple weeks, and so this is an opportunity to, right at the beginning of the school year, as kids start coming in for truancy court, that we can, already moving forward, reduce that fine dramatically for the kids that will be seen in September.
So for the future truants.
Yes, thank you for that clarification.
Vice President Haynes.
All right, for a point of clarification, if we approve this amendment, we'll have to table the amended ordinance pending the review of Judge Henderson.
Is that correct, Ms. Krieger?
That is.
Okay. That was all I asked.
Councillor Libke, did you have?
Yes, Attorney Christensen,
Krieger.
When we do have a student in front of you, you have the option to modify or change or build special payments in or whatever?
Yeah, if they appear in front of the court and plead no contest or guilty, they're evaluated for one of the diversion programs. If they plead not guilty, they're given a pretrial conference with me. Almost always, the habitual truancy students do end up talking to me. They have extenuating circumstances. So sometimes we're able to work out mutually acceptable dispositions of the case. Sometimes the juvenile wants the right to a trial, and we go to trial.
And as far as students coming before court, it may be late October because school starts around September 1st, and it takes.
We won't see any
it'll be a couple
requests.
months, so maybe towards the end of October. Fred will have to meet with them. They'll go through all these stages. They'll get all these chances to try to rectify the problem. So it may be 2 months before the first one comes through. We're not going to have somebody the first day of school.
No, the school district won't request habitual truancy tickets till at least November before
Right.
we see any.
So we do have at least, from this point, almost 3 months.
Are there any other councilors wishing to speak on this amendment? Councilor DeForest.
I guess if I could just reiterate again, even if it is 3 months, I doubt that the work group that we form will be able to come up with some definitive ideas about exactly what these ordinance changes are going to look like. And so I guess I would like feedback from my colleagues that are resistant. What is the resistance to lowering it from 100 to 50? What is the concern about doing that? Because I guess I'm having trouble understanding their rationale.
Councilor Lubke.
I think we've already lowered it, Sheila, and the judge has approved it. Judge Henderson works with this day in and day out. And if the committee meets, let's say one of the first things the committee wants to do is say we need to lower it, then we can come back to council in September, and at that time. But then a committee of all concerned parties has said it. People who have all the facts, all the information. We have to base it on that. We've already lowered the fees.
Just to respond to that, I believe it's $187 is the actual cost of the $100. Is that correct, Ms. Krieger?
Correct.
That strikes me as a pretty large amount for someone who could be as young as, what's the youngest we give out?
Habitual truancy can be as young as 12. I don't see many at that age.
But
could be
even
12.
13, 14, 15, that seems like a lot of money for a first offense, even if there have been interventions tried to that point. And so it seems reasonable to lower it. And I don't think a committee is going to come up with a magic answer that 50 or 100 is going to be the world-changing difference. But as long as we're here, let's make sure that it's as reasonable as possible so that it's more likely somebody will be able to actually pay it and move on with their lives and not end up having it hang with them for years. That's my take. Councilor DeForest.
I would agree. For a kid that age, $200 might as well be $1,000. I mean, yes, it's already been lowered, but it's still not really within the reasonable threshold for kids that age to really pay it.
Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Councilor Lubke.
If Mr. Atlas is willing to talk on it at all and give his opinion on that, I don't want to put you on the spot, Fred, but it's however you feel. you're very close to this matter.
First, from a school district.
Would you approach the podium? Thank you.
Thank you, council members. From a district standpoint, we have stopgaps in place. The district is firmly standing behind our procedures that we presently execute. Our 2-day, our 5-day, our certified letters, our home visits, our meetings with principals, our meetings with counselors, social workers. So I don't see the district really turning opposite and doing anything different. As far as fines, I've stated on many occasions, tickets aren't cure-alls. That doesn't solve anything. A 12-year-old first offense, the courts highly recommend a diversion program. So a 12-year-old receiving a ticket for the first time, in most cases, will not be cited. But I agree with Mr. Lupke that we need all parties involved to try to express their opinions. Fines are over my head, they're out of my realm. I'm not in the municipal courts as far as a city council member. Again, I am a school district employee. So fines are something that I don't really have a hands-on approach to. I'm more or less there to ensure these young people get a quality education, and that's my main function. I'm willing to answer questions, but again, fines are here and the district is here, and I think both parties should coexist and try to work the situation out.
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks, Fred.
Councilor DeForest?
I guess if I could follow up, I know there have been cases where kids have incurred truancy fines and are kind of getting things back together. They're going to school and they're 18 years old and they're attending school and get pulled out of school to serve time in jail for their truancy fine. So if we're really about quality education, I guess I don't know how else to say this. I'm a little flabbergasted on why the resistance, but we still have the fines in place. I'm not saying eliminate them. I'm just saying let's reduce them so at least it's fathomable that a kid could maybe pay the cost of the fine instead of having it hang over their head when they're trying to get themselves back on track. So thank you.
I think we've pretty well debated this amendment. Is there any further discussion before we vote? The amendment is specifically to reduce the first offense for habitual truancy from $100 to $50. That's the only change this amendment would make to the proposal in front of us. All those in favor of that change say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
I believe I heard 4 ayes. Madam Clerk, did you?
Can we take a roll call?
Can we take a roll call on that?
Start with DeForest.
Aye.
Hendricks. Haynes.
Nay.
Breitzer.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Kincaid. Aye. Lupke.
Nay.
So the motion to amend carries by a vote of 5-2.
Thank you. The question before us now is the amended change that makes a number of reductions to fines for juvenile offenses by creating a separate ordinance specifically covering fines for juvenile offenses, and the proposal remains unchanged from what we saw at our last meeting, except for the one amendment that was just approved. Is there any discussion on approving this set of changes to our ordinance? Or I guess we can't. So we do need to lay it over.
Lay the matter over.
Is there any further discussion on this before we lay it over? Then, Ms. Krieger, I would ask that you touch base with the judge and see if he's amenable to this change, and hopefully we can have this back on our next agenda for approval, and I'd ask for a motion to lay this over for 2 more weeks.
Move to lay over.
Moved by Haynes, second by Hendricks. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? This is laid over 7-0. Item 8 is appointments. We have none. 9 is counselor activities and upcoming events. Counselor Lupke.
It was very nice to see all the people downtown before the rain, and even after the rain on Friday night. Another very successful Friday night. And then we had over 100 people at 6 o'clock the next morning take off and bike as far as New Glarus and back. So those are just two of the many activities we had this last weekend, but just another very positive weekend in Beloit with activities. That's all for right now.
Thank you. Councillor DeForest.
Thank you. I'm happy to report that I enjoyed volunteering at the street dance. It was wonderful to see so many Beloiters come out and celebrate together. I also enjoyed attending the corn boil benefiting the Hands of Faith, the emergency family shelter, and thanks to all those who continue to support those efforts, not just with funds, but with their volunteer hours. So many residents in our area sleep overnight in the churches and provide meals for the families that are in need. And we never know when we could be that family next. So thank you for all those who step up for that. I am certainly looking forward to National Night Out tomorrow and attending events throughout the city. Thank you to all those who have stepped up to host black parties and other activities around the city. I have some exciting news that I want to make sure that every resident hears. We will have a trans construction training begin in Beloit and Janesville. I'm absolutely thrilled. This is free training that will equip residents to be able to participate, hopefully, in construction jobs that are coming with 3990 expansion. I'm absolutely thrilled about it. There will be interviews already starting at Community Action, the Pathway Center, the Eclipse, which is the old Beloit Mall in Beloit. That will be happening tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And just real quickly, you need a driver's license. You need to be 18. You do not have to have a high school diploma or GED. So this is a wonderful opportunity for individuals who could have access to very high-paying jobs. So just want to emphasize to you again, that's tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Community Action. Absolutely thrilled that that will be right here in our city instead of having to drive to Racine or Madison to get that training. And then finally, I would like to extend my condolences to Shasha Carruthers of Bolito and her family, and want to please encourage residents to step up and share what they know about the incident. There were many, many witnesses there that night. Please consider cooperating with the police. I understand that there's concerns about risks of retaliation, but please consider making that sacrifice and sharing information that you have regarding that incident. Thank you.
Councillor Kincaid.
I have nothing this week.
Councillor Hendricks.
I too am looking forward to the National Night Out events on tomorrow night. We'll be hosting one. I'll mostly be at my church doing an event, but I will be around some of the block parties to kick it off. Like Mrs. McCoy mentioned, there have been a lot of Stop the Violence movements and events here in Beloit, so I urge the community to support those events, support the people that are trying to make a difference. We have to come together as a community. Not one group of people can do it alone. We have to come together as one. Of course, it's not going to solve the problem, but I do believe that is a positive step toward solving something or making this place a better place. So I know another event that's coming up. There was a Unity in the Community event on July 22nd. That was a good. July 26th, sorry, on Switch Track Alley. That was a huge success. But there is an event coming up on August 13th, Beloit Strong, Strengthening Our Community. That will be held at Summit Park, where some of the most recent crimes have been committed. So they want to have something positive at that park so that the children and the community can see the park as more of a positive place instead of a place where crimes are committed. So that's Beloit Strong, Strengthening Our Community event at Summit Park. It's August 13th from 2 o'clock till 6 o'clock p.m. So I urge you all to attend.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Looking forward to National Night Out, and there's also a meeting about the I-90 39 extension or whatever tomorrow at 5 o'clock at the library. So if anybody's interested or, want to ask questions, there'll be people there that can answer questions.
Vice President Haynes.
Nothing additional.
And I also am looking forward to National Night Out and getting to as many block parties as I can. I will be attending the public officials portion of the I-3990 meeting earlier in the day so that I can be sure to get to the block parties when they start. And I also had a chance to go to the Hands of Faith Corn Boil at the Rock this weekend, and it was a great event and lots of people coming out to support a great organization. I also attended the retirement party for Craig Knutson, the Rock County Administrator, and that was on Saturday, and had a chance to present a proclamation from the city declaring Saturday as Craig Knutson Day in the city of Beloit and recognizing him for his 35 and a half years of service to Rock County. So that was a spectacular event with a number of people who've served the county over the decades, and wish Craig the very best in his retirement. And item 10 is City Manager's presentation. We have none. That brings us to item 11, reports from boards and city officers. 11A.
A resolution amending the 2014 capital improvements budget for fire department utility terrain vehicle equipment purchase.
Almost needed a UTV to get the fire chief down here.
Chief Leggett.
Good evening, councilors. Before you tonight is a resolution to amend the CIP budget for us to purchase a UTV for fire department utilization for all-terrain rescue, for water rescue, for snow rescues, for large scenes when we have a large building that's involved in an emergency. Allows us to move the command element around the building in a more efficient way. This vehicle, we've made 2 requests for it in the CIP in the last 2 years, and the funding wasn't available for it. Just recently, while examining our budget to try to be able to fund this purchase, we discovered that we had some savings in an ambulance purchase from 2007. Those funds are available for us to utilize today for the purchase of this vehicle. Now, what does this do for us? It increases our capacity to respond to these emergencies. It's a more efficient response. If you can imagine trying to carry 200-300 pounds of equipment from the roadway 300 or 400 yards through a field to a creek bed to be able to rescue someone and then try to swim to that person after carrying all that equipment in, it's pretty exhaustive. So our idea here is to be able to purchase a piece of equipment that we can bring to the scene to more rapidly deploy those. Now, how we deploy that at this point is we currently, when we have a water rescue, deploy our boats, our jet ski, a van from fire station number 2, and we also deploy a four-wheel drive vehicle from headquarters that carries an inflatable boat, water rescue suits, ropes, and all the things that we need to make swift water rescue. So those are simultaneously dispatched. What will be also going on if we get this ATV or UTV purchase is to attach that UTV to that unit at headquarters, and it will respond simultaneously to the scene. It can be rapidly deployed. It carries 4 rescuers. It has like a pickup bed on it that we can throw all of our equipment in and rapidly deploy it to the scene. That was our primary initial purchase. That's what we wanted to do with it for our swift water rescue program. There are, again, the alternative uses for winter. We have specified and purchased or would like to purchase track system that can be attached to it so it can be used like a snowmobile to get out on the interstate when we have stranded motorists, like our 2009 storm in February where we made 22 different rescues with snowmobiles owned by our employees to make that happen. We don't have the resource in-house to do these types of rescues, so we're asking for your support for this evening. Do you have any questions on me?
Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I wanted to check with you, Chief Liggett. I guess first of all, I just want to make sure that the residents understand that this is money saved in the capital improvements budget, so we can only use this money for capital equipment purchases. We can't use it to fund, let's say, a firefighter or EMT. I want to make sure that residents know that. And then my question is, was there consideration in sharing the cost of this purchase with area municipalities in terms of sharing the equipment with them so that we would reduce the cost of purchase and then make this piece of equipment available to them? I understand it will be available through mutual aid, but as a way to reduce some of our costs, was that considered as a possibility?
Because the funds for the purchase were available from the surplus from that ambulance purchase, it was not considered.
I guess to follow up on that, do you see any value in doing that? Or, I mean, what is your sense of?
We certainly could look into that if the council so desires. There's always the ability to save money. We would have to go through an intergovernmental agreement process, joint purchasing, that sort of thing. It would take us some time to do that, and probably be next spring before we'd be operational.
Okay, so it would significantly affect, it would delay your ability to purchase the piece of equipment, it sounds like.
Yep.
And the savings, given the total cost, would not be that significant?
Well, if
Guessing.
it depends on the number of communities that got involved. If all of the fire departments in Mavis Division 104, you'd take that 25,000 and divide it by 13, but how long would it take us to get to that point?
Okay, so in your professional opinion, is it worth pursuing that at this point or no?
It would be difficult.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Lupke.
The neat thing, Chief, is that because of mutual aid and cooperation, right now, if the town needs some help, we can help them, just like if we need their boat and their trained people, they can bring their boat on the river down to Beloit to help us.
Absolutely. That's the way it's set up now.
Thank you.
We have a water rescue card that involves the town of Beloit, the South Beloit Fire Department, Harlem-Roscoe, and the city of Beloit to respond to those types of calls. So they're automatically dispatched. We automatically support each other. Each of us has identical equipment. For instance, our rescue boat that we have at Fire Station Number 2 is a rescue platform that's exactly the same boat as South Beloit's boat, and we can lash those two boats together and make a rescue platform for an extended operation if we need to. So
It's a novel idea.
We plan those ideas out.
Cooperation.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks.
Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. So just to make sure, because I know one of my concerns, and I think some residents share this concern, is we don't want duplication where we can avoid it. I believe they're using their boat primarily for enforcement. Is that correct? I mean, certainly it's available for water rescue, but okay. I just want to make sure, because we don't want to have every town within 5 minutes of each other buying the same exact equipment over and over again. It does not make sense for taxpayers, whether they're Illinois taxpayers or Wisconsin taxpayers, or I just want to make sure that's clear. So.
Sure.
Okay.
In the situation that you're talking about regarding the town of Beloit, they do have a fire rescue boat also that's stationed at the town of Beloit fire station. So technically, if you want to look at it from that perspective, the fire department has a boat and the police department has a boat.
Oh boy.
So, and we have a boat and we have a jet ski or a wave runner. Not for recreational use, of course, but for effecting rapid water rescues on open water like the Rock River.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Chief, regardless of the fact that they're not paying for it, obviously, as we noted, this would be available to our surrounding communities in a mutual aid situation. I assume we'll make sure that their departments are aware when we have this online, so that if they have something, they know that they should be calling us.
Absolutely. And the way that works is every year in the fall, we go through a boxcar development process for mutual aid, and they receive a notification of resources that we will make available to their community in the event that there's a need. And they do the same. We take those resource lists and then build our mutual aid response ahead of time before we need it, so that it's just a push button, and the dispatcher at the Rock County 911 Center takes care of it for us.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Lupke, second by Haynes. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? This is approved 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Item 12 is a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Hendrick, second by Kelly. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? We're adjourned, 8:04 PM.
So the Club Impulse has been bought out, or is it changing hands?
It
What's the deal?
closed, and I'm not sure. I think there is a new
I
owner.
saw the liquor.
Right, that's what they're gonna call it, the
Oh, yeah,
Grand
right.
Avenue Pub or
Grand
something.
Avenue Pub, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be any different? Is it?
It's not going to be a gay bar.
It's not.
No.
That was blunt enough.
I thought you were doing well.
I don't know.